Hello and welcome to Bring the Ring, a new way to handbell. My name is Brenda Austin, and it is my sincere hope that through connecting with us today, you will be inspired to use handbells to make a difference, to add value to our world. Let's get out there and bring the ring.
Hello and welcome to Bring the Ring. My name is Brenda Austin, and we are here to connect with each other, connect with handbell composers, and figure out how we can use handbells to impact our world, to add value to others, to make a difference. And today we have with us Joel Raney. I'm so excited to talk with him today and introduce him to many of you. Joel has been playing piano since he was a very small child. He has a degree in choral conducting as well as a master's in piano performance from the Juilliard School. He is the guiding creative force and choral editor at Hope Publishing. He has hundreds of choral titles in print, and if our website is correct, 78 handbell titles in the Hope catalog, including one of the all-time bestsellers in the Hope catalog, You Raise Me Up. Let's welcome Joel Raney. Hello, Joel. How are you today?
Hi, Brenda. I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, good, good. Getting ready for Christmas. I love your background, all festive.
Yeah, I sort of went around the house and robbed from my wife's Christmas decoration stash because I knew we were going to air this around Christmas.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, so I know that you didn't start out your career as writing church music. So tell us a little bit like your journey to Hope Publishing. How did you get
Ooh.
from one place to the next?
Like so many people, when you graduate from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do at that point. So I just went to the local college, which was the University of North Alabama, and started trying things. I tried pre-med and I tried um, accounting because I come from a family of accountants. That didn't work out. And I ended up getting a degree in choral education because I thought I wanted to teach high school choir, but I did my student teaching and discovered I didn't want to teach high school choir. And then made the decision to get a degree in piano. So I went to Juilliard, I got my master's degree and tried to be a concert pianist for a while. There aren't very many of those that make a good living out there in the world, I discovered.
Right. That's a tough way to make a living.
Right. So then I wandered off into the world of musical theater. And I spent probably a decade or more doing different things in New York and ultimately LA and then Chicago, all in theater. Um, Tours of Broadway shows. I played in some Broadway pits when I lived in New York. And then somewhere in there, I got married. And somewhere in there, we discovered we were about to have a child. And at the time, neither my wife nor I had a real job. And I started poking around and stumbled on an opportunity in Chicago to work for a jingle company. So I moved to Chicago and spent probably 20 years writing radio and television commercials.
Okay.
I grew up in church music and I never really got that far away from it, um, often playing in church and so forth. And I met Jane Holstein, who was an editor at Hope Publishing Company. And one thing led to another. She asked me to write a piano book. The next thing you know, I'm writing chorals. And the next thing you know, I'm having moderate success at that. And at that point in time, the jingle business started to change because of um, the internet, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and technology. Suddenly, it became
Sure.
less and less expensive uh, to create great music. I mean, people could start doing it in their home studios, and consequently, commercial music budgets went down and down and down. And jingle companies all over the country went out of business, one after the other. Um, and fortunately for me, just as our business was going down, my work at Hope was sort of crossing up in the other direction. And then fast forward to now, and I've been doing this full time for, I guess, 10 years, 12, something like
Wow.
that.
Okay. Yeah. So of some of the jingles that you wrote, would we recognize any of them? Would we remember any of them?
Sure. We were my company was most well known for was the United Airlines Rhapsody in Blue campaign. So if you heard this on your TV, that was me back in the 80s.
I
Okay,
I
I also,
remember that. Yeah.
I also did corny things like play plug-ins, and I did music for lots of toilet paper commercials, and very glamorous things like that. My crowning achievement, I think, was when I wrote the jingle for Depends.
That's awesome. The glamour of what you have done, Joel.
I know. No, those were fun years, and it was excellent training um, for what I'm doing now. I think probably scored in my career maybe 4,000 commercials, most of which never saw the light of day because you do a lot of trial balloons, and you lose a lot of opportunities, and you lose out to other jingle companies. It's very competitive, but I had to learn to express myself in 30 seconds. So I feel like that's some of the best training you can get. Plus, I was forced to work in all styles of music, things that I would have never chosen to write. I have written rap commercials. It's
Right.
the kind of stuff that I've been able to do. It was a lot of fun. A lot of
Well,
pressure.
and I think that's probably one of the reasons why you are such an awesome composer today is that you couldn't just do what you wanted to do. You had to go outside and do what was asked of you.
You become a great recomposer. You learn how to steal from everybody and steal everything, and then eventually you end up with this vast pool of ideas floating around in your head. So, yeah, I don't think I would be writing like I write today if it hadn't been for that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Learning through jingle land.
Thank you for sharing with us because I don't think most people know how you came into it. As I listen to your music, I often feel like I can hear an entire orchestration. So talk to us a little bit about how you bring out all the different sounds, because handbells, it's not an orchestra, it's just handbells. You have chimes too, but how do you bring out all those different timbres and tones when you compose?
Well, you said the most important thing, which is orchestration. I love orchestration. That was probably my favorite area of coursework in college. The colors of the orchestra. There's nothing like it. And even if I write for piano, which I do most of the time, I think orchestrally. That's what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
And handbells has its limitations, as you mentioned, but it also has a pretty wide variety of tricks in the bag, as it were. I mean, marks sound just like pizzicato strings, if you think about it. Mallets rolling on the bells sound like marimba, and there's lots of different things. And if you have hand chimes in the mix, you can, I think the trick is to go back and forth a lot, which can be frustrating for a lot of choirs. My early stuff, I was unabashed. Some would probably say I still am, with modulations and things that just cause handbell players to want to pull their hair out. I had never rung a handbell when I started writing for handbells, so it was a learn as you write.
Right.
Process.
Sure.
quite a bit of feedback at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the thing about handbell ringers. We aren't afraid to give you feedback.
Oh, no, not at all. But it was, I learned, I'm still learning. I've learned even just since my association with you. Some things have dawned on me that probably should have dawned on me a decade ago. I was like, oh, you're used to having a space note in your left hand. Little things like that.
Right.
Right. And now I think about that when I write.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
think
can
it's,
ignore it, but I think about it.
and that is your right as a composer. And sometimes you want to, as a composer, be able to just do whatever you hear in your head and tell the handbell choir, just figure it out, like work it out. And upper level groups do that.
Right.
But with our developing groups, it's more important that we think about those logistical things so that they can develop.
My voice is about half shot. I don't. It sounds like I sound like a tired old person. Not that I'm not old, but I've had COVID. I'm on the 14 days ago. I was exposed to it, and that's where it landed for me. I just had all these symptoms right here in this part of my body, and my voice says, it sounds like this now. I hate this. Hopefully this is going to stop soon, because I feel fine.
Yeah, I hope so too. But you aren't that many days out, so I give it some time. So thanks for doing this, because I did want a Christmas piece for our December issue. All right, so other than the brackets, what are some of the challenges for writing for handbells?
I didn't used to feel these challenges, but knowing the things that I now know about bell changes and which hand is holding which bell and that sort of thing. If I write with that in mind, it's challenging. Handbell composition goes very slowly. I can write a choral in a fourth the time I can write a handbell piece. Simply because there's so many different choices. You can't just choose any key. You have to think about what's the low note that I'm going to need, and then that sort of thing. It's and that sort of carries through the whole process. Every section of every piece has its own. Okay, am I thinking about everything I need to think about to make it translate? So that's the biggest challenge. Making it workable.
When I first started composing for handbells, I think picking the key was the number one most difficult thing. And I'd get a piece a third of the way done and then realize I had to put it in a different key. And then it's not as simple as just transposing it. And then you have to rewrite half of it.
Also, keeping it interesting. When you're dealing with a limited color palette, which you are.
Yep.
The interest has to come from style and variety within the way you write, the actual arrangement. You mentioned orchestration, and I appreciate that, but you can't really say, okay, I'm going to use the strings now. So you have to imply these things, find ways to vary the texture and so forth and so on.
Yeah. We're going to listen to in just a second, All Through the Silent Night. And that is written to be performed with piano. And you have several of these in our catalog that are for piano and handbell choir. How is it different when you write for the piano with the handbells? What are you trying to accomplish, and what are your goals with those?
When I started actually directing a handbell choir, which has been less than 10 years, I have a small church group, and I discovered that we have a much more successful presentation if I play along it boosts their confidence. It gives us another layer of color, and it helps hold it together. So started thinking about actually making that kind of thing available. So that's the impetus behind it.
I've used them with some of my groups, and often they can fill that like slot of I don't have as much time to rehearse, so here we go, and we'll put it with piano, and they fall together so quickly. Or my ringers that aren't as confident, my group that is developing and still learning, and they feel so much more confident when they've got the piano behind them, and then
Right.
and they
That,
sound fabulous.
that's the biggest thing, I think, is just taking away that nervous edge
Mm-hmm.
that ringers sometimes have, because you're really on the spot. When you have to hit that fourth, eighth note of the measure, and if you don't get it, the next player is going to be tripped up a little bit. So it's a high pressure job ringing bells.
It is. I agree.
But the piano takes a little of that off, I think.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, let's listen to it.
Oh, I haven't heard that in about a year. It was recorded. I enjoyed that. That was nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It puts us right in the holiday
Oh,
mood, doesn't it?
yes, and it, how many times can a person arrange Silent Night? I ask myself, and there always seems to be another way.
Yep, yep, one more way. And we still love it, even though we have 20 arrangements in
You
the
can't have Christmas without it. There's no question.
Yep. Yep. Well, it's beautiful. I would love to move into talking just a little bit about, I think my favorite piece that you have written of all times is The Angel Gabriel from Heaven Came. And I loved it long
Thank you.
before I met you. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's just a cool piece. So what can you tell us about this piece? I mean, talk about orchestration. Wow. I mean, talk to us a little bit about
Well,
this piece.
well, usually when I compose, I have an idea for beginning the piece. Like this is how I want to like. I think of a fabric on which to build, or a pattern on which to build, or an idea. And with this piece, it's the first line. The angel Gabriel from heaven came. So I said, so I'm going to create this beginning that feels like a mysterious heavenly event is about to happen. So, you think about chromaticism and whole tone scales and mystery, and what can I do to make it feel like this grand beginning that's mysterious. So that's the thing about this piece. I thought of that. I wrote the beginning, and then from there, it's just what idea came next. Well, I'm tired of being in 6/8. Let's do something else.
Yep.
6/8 is fun. I mean, you get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can lope along. Ding, 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 ding. That sort of Western clip clop, which also makes you think of camels wandering through the desert, and kind of has a little bit of a Christmas vibe to it, I think.
Sure.
So that's that's really how that one got started, and then the ideas just sort of tumbled out as I went.
Well, we are going to listen to it here. This is actually Embellish. This is a live performance of Embellish, which is a community group in Grand Rapids. And I'm a little partial to this group because the Position 10 ringer is very near and dear to my heart. My little girl's ringing on it.
Ah. Aha, that was a gorgeous performance of that.
Yeah, well done, embellished under the
Yeah.
direction of Stephanie Wiltsey there.
That's, and it's not an easy piece to play, I understand. Yeah, that was great.
And that piece actually has optional percussion as well, but obviously the piece works just fine without it. But if you want to add it in, it adds quite a bit more flair and passion to it.
6/8 requires a tambourine, it just does.
Yeah.
And you know, I was thinking as that was going by, my favorite handbell pieces are in a minor key. I'm not sure why that is, but it seems to fit.
I agree. I think there's lots of us that really enjoy minor keys, and some of our favorite pieces are in minor keys.
I wonder if it has something to do with the overtones. I have to look into that.
Yeah, why don't you research that for us, Joel?
I'll get back to you. All right.
Deal. You have the ability to continue to reinvent yourself and find new harmonies and techniques.
You know, all those years of the first 26 years of my life, I was immersed in the classics, the piano repertoire, you know, Beethoven, everything that a pianist is required to go through. And I think that all of that stuff is swimming around in my head somewhere. It's all buried. And so far, knock on wood, I have more ideas than I have time to express them. And I feel like it is that whole storehouse of experience, but I couldn't enjoy doing anything anymore than composing. And as you know, it's so much beats working for a living. So much.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, well, Joel, it is a pleasure. I hope that you continue to feel better and be strengthened, and have a very Merry Christmas.
Good.
And I'll be thinking of you.
Okay. All right, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today. Brenda Austin is the handbell editor for Hope Publishing, where we are equipping musicians for excellence. Visit hopepublishing.com or call 1-800-323-1049 for all your music needs. For questions about this episode of Bring the Ring, contact Brenda at brenda@hopepublishing.com. Our show notes can be found on our Facebook page or in the comments below.